Welcome to the Beyond Electric Sheep podcast. I'm Rick Thompson.
And I'm Ed Daniels.
Ed, we wanted to talk about something that developed over at Google or at DeepMind, which is something called AlphaEvolve. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. Yes, and I'm obviously not an expert in it, but from what I understand, it's a evolutionary model development algorithm and environment that allows you to spin up various LLM type models and use them for particular tasks like materials science, for example, looking at various possible materials and determining what's best for a particular task, or in this particular case, figuring out a better method of matrix multiplication. And so the idea was for DeepMind to build this environment where you could spin up these models, then
basically
manage
agents,
their,
right?
Yeah,
agents, okay.
Right. Let's call them an agent. Yeah. Build this agent to accomplish a particular purpose, assign it to that task, and then see how it does. If it performs well, then you let it survive. If it doesn't perform that well, then you spin up another agent to do a similar task. Ultimately, you have an evolutionary process in place where the models or the agents that do a better job survive and go on to propagate other agents. And so it's similar to evolutionary programming, which was in place, 10, 20 years ago, where you'd write some code and then you'd tweak it a little bit and see if it did better than your first code.
Better or worse,
and
kind of like salesman problem. I remember people tried to solve that one with that.
Right, but you sort of automate that process. You manage it with an agent of its own, and you can end up building better agents and models or algorithms automatically.
I may have thrown us off by using the term agent because that's sort of that's the hot term right now. It may not be that. It may be actually a single model, as you were describing, or a single agent that is trying lots of different approaches and scoring them, and then going down the path that's most fruitful. I think I read about this that people were astounded that it came up with some novel math solution to matrix multiplication, sort of like Move 37 in AlphaGo, where Lee Sedol, I think he was the world champion in Go. Move 37 AlphaGo made, and it blew his mind. He had to go outside and have a cigarette. It was something that a human would never have done. Completely novel solution.
Yeah.
So what do you think this means then for business?
I think to me what it means is that if you think about it, you've always got various processes going in your business, and you can improve them. You can improve them by thinking about them, by having a meeting of your employees or the experts in an area and trying to figure out the way to improve the process, make it more efficient, be able to get more bang for the buck, improved materials, or reduced overall manufacturing costs, or whatever it is, instead of having to do that and put all that thought into it. Instead, you can spin up an agent and set it in competition with other agents and see which one survives, does a better job, and use this overseeing manager of the process to try out different things, to be creative, to try out different examples and see which one wins. You set that up and it becomes a self-improving machine.
Yeah. I think you still need a human in the loop somewhere, though, but maybe not. Maybe you just need him not in the loop, but at the end of the loop to say, okay.
Well, classically, you're identifying what the process is that needs to be improved and what an improved outcome looks like. So you got to have some measurement to say which agent is doing better than another agent. And then classically, you would have a human tweak the agents to say, well, if that didn't work, try this, or hey, maybe this will make it better. I'm not sure you need people to do that anymore.
Right. Maybe you need people when it comes to, you've heard of this concept of taste in AI development, like having taste around research projects, that humans are good at that, and machines maybe not as good, sort of knowing what to go after. Maybe you have it when you run into problems where you're doing optimization, but there's some ethical component to it, or some judgment component. Like this is going to be good for some people, bad for other people. How do we judge whether we should do this or not? I don't know. It seems like there's still a role in there, but at some point it could get away from you.
Yeah. Well, I think now, typically these processes are best when they're hybrid and when there's a human in the loop at some point or able to identify, the objective function, what it is you're trying to accomplish. But not always. Sometimes the humans get in the way and slow down things.
Yeah. So at what point do you think this becomes a steamroller? Is it 5 years, 10 years? At what point is it just going so much faster than we can keep up with that something weird is happening?
Right. Well, the weird thing always is set as the example is when do you have an agent that can develop a better agent? And so once you have that, then you can start a recursive self-improvement. And
isn't that the first thing you do always?
Well, it's not always so easy to do that, right? You have to be able to create that, and sometimes that's a complicated or difficult thing to do. But once you have recursive self-improvement running, then it is off to the races, and you have what's known as the intelligence explosion.
Right. We used to think of the singularity as being something that would happen overnight. It's probably not overnight, but it's probably not over decades.
Why, Rick, does it feel like we're in the middle of it right this minute?
Oh, no, we definitely. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I think we are in the middle of it, and it does take some amount of time. I was telling you about that snippet from an interview I saw with Sergey Brin and Demis Hassabis, CEO of OpenMind and Google. And someone asked them that, and I think Sergey said it's going to be before 2030. He might have said it's going to be 2027, and Demis said, no, it'll be after 2030. I can't remember exactly. Yeah. And Sergey's response to Demis was, quit sandbagging.
Right.
So it's not decades.
Yeah.
It's years.
It's years, yeah.
Short number of years.
Right. And so essentially we have self-improving AI, and that can move very, very fast. And so, we're all struggling to keep up with these changes. This will make it even more challenging.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about it the other day. Technology, I love technology, and I love shiny objects and new things and learning new stuff. It is getting hard to keep up, and you have to develop a mindset of, okay, I'm not going to become an expert at the current state of the art, because that state of the art is going to move so quickly that I can't. So I sort of have to be much more flexible and plastic in my thinking so that I can still get benefit from this and not get totally freaked out by it. I mean, this idea of I'll become an expert in prompt engineering may not be relevant, right? Because the tools themselves, the LLMs, are writing great prompts now and are much better at inferring what you're trying to get to.
Right.
So you don't need to become an expert at that. And so that, I think, keeps happening, and you have to be super flexible and sort of float on top of it a bit.
I think that prompt engineering is really a good example. Yeah, it was a thing there for a while, but it's not so important anymore because we can use AIs to help generate prompts. But I know for me, so I was just thinking 3 years ago, I think we could pretty much cover the territory of AI and AI development. So at least what happened in the last week,
or the last
pretty
month.
easily in a conversation like this. But now, what happened in the last week or two, it's impossible to encapsulate all that in a podcast. So what do you do as a person? I know I face this every day, really, there's sort of two approaches or heuristics that I use. One is just admit you're not going to be able to keep up on everything, and say I've got this many hours a day to keep up on what's happening. I just have to kind of focus on the things that I think are the most important, and then do the same thing the next day and the same thing the next day. And then the other heuristic is what's important to you. What is it that's important to me, my business, my personal life, my various endeavors like writing and all that. What do I, and then try to focus in on those things that are important. So one of them is a time allocation, and the other is a specialization.
Yeah, it's interesting. As just a human in this, there's a lot of reason to be optimistic. and excited about it. Improvements in healthcare, maybe improvements in environmental engineering, maybe improvements in politics. There could be a lot of good outcomes. As a person running a business, it's a different problem. It's much more micro.
Yeah.
It's really hard to figure out. There's going to be big organizations that are doing things that'll wipe out parts of my business, guaranteed. But there will probably be niches that they're not, because there's not enough value for them to do that, at least in the near term. I mean, over a period of time, it could be everything, but you sort of have to just kind of keep moving. Yeah, so and maybe it's always been that way, but it's just sped up.
Right, but on the time management part of that, you can't take your eye off the ball of the base business. You have to continue to perform and make sure you're doing the key parts of the business, but on the other hand, you have to allocate time to where is it going and how we're going to deal with what's, essentially our piece of the exponential curve.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I'm mostly excited and optimistic about it, but every once in a while it's a bit daunting, I have to admit.
Yes.
And this week it was especially daunting with just all the releases from Microsoft and Google and Anthropic, and it was a bit of an explosion this week. Anyway, all right. Good discussion.
Yep.
We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks.